in this Bitcoin bull market, a lot of people are trying to look for ways that they can track Bitcoin and the crypto market as a whole. And people are wondering what funds, if they're not directly involved in the cryptocurrency, what funds should they go to? And I've been hearing a lot of discussion about BITW, which is the Bitwise 10 Crypto Index Fund. It's basically a list of the top 10 market in terms of market cap in the crypto space. And if you look at this image, this is just from the Bitwise Investments website. 67% of BITW is in Bitcoin, and then 25% is in Ethereum. And so the remaining, 3 to 5% of this is in the other 8 cryptos. And so one of the first things you have to do, because I've been doing a lot of work in GBTC, as you know, if you've been looking at any of my previous videos on GBTC and how it tracks Bitcoin, you can find those on my page in the GBTC Bitcoin playlist, or just look in the videos page. But I've done a lot of work in looking at GBTC and its price action. There are a couple of things that you have to think about if you are looking to get invested in BITW. So first of all, understand that this started to trade back in December, late November and into early December. You saw a really huge spike. It was very, very memorable. I'll never forget. I don't know if it tracks here. Yeah, here we go. At one time, the NAV, when the NAV was at, here we go, December 16th, the NAV was at $18.55, and the market price went up to $139. That's what you see over here, just in a few days. So it was a huge premium. And so a couple things you have to consider. First of all, BITW is very, very new. Okay, it's not even 6 months old. You also have to recognize the backdrop over the last year, especially since the COVID crash. Lots of speculation. Just ignore the fact that there's a lot of speculation in crypto during Bitcoin's bull market. With things like, in the normal stock markets, right? So BITW is trading on OTC, but you've got gamma squeezing and short squeezing that's going on. You have all this stuff going on with the options market. You have companies like Tesla going up 600 to 1,000% in less than a year. You have the crazes regarding stock splits, both in Apple and Tesla. So you just have to take a second and recognize. Oh, and that's without even talking about SPACs, and other sorts of, and then the IPO market, like all the craze associated with those things. You have to recognize that as particularly potent, given the fact that over the last year, so many people have kind of been bored and just been looking to basically gamble in the stock market. And you combine that with the fact that with SPACs and IPOs and new funds, people are always trying to jump onto the next big thing. And then you add to that in the crypto space, every 4 years when there's a Bitcoin bull market, there's going to be a whole bunch of speculation into different crypto and different funds associated with crypto. So you have to keep that in mind, right? So a lot of people were saying, oh, BITW is going to go to 1,000 because it went to 100 so quickly. Well, I mean, it only took a day or two for it to come all the way down, and then ultimately like settling down. I'm actually looking at percentages here, right? It came down as low as just under $40, went sideways, had a big spike up, and then has been kind of consolidating down. And so if you're in the CTM group, then this is something that got talked about in our Discord recently, about whether or not BITW would be a better investment or not. So recognize what I said about BITW, right? It's something that's new, and you just think about anything else in the crypto space, or IPOs or things like that. Like the Coinbase IPO, it was spiking up. and then it's been basically down ever since it debuted. So, when the craze wears off, when it's less attractive, that's kind of something you have to think about. Okay, so I tend to look at BITW, hopefully, but also with a grain of salt and um, cautiously, because it is a new fund. If you go back and you look at its NAV, right now its NAV is over or is underneath the market price, so it is trading at premium. And people get this idea that like they want to wait until something is trading at premium to buy it. But that's actually not the right time to buy it. You want to buy it when it's at discount. So that's the first thing I would say. But it's actually the closest. It's very close to where it's like to the closest it's ever. I think it's the closest it's ever been actually to its NAV. You had a couple of times it got close. Yeah, it looks like it's closer now to its NAV than it ever has been. So that's something to consider. We had a pretty significant couple of down days. So I want to take this a couple of different ways because I want to compare it to GBTC. But before I go back to BITW, it's helpful to remember GBTC, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, has been in the game already for a whole cycle. Basically, no other fund can say that. No other tracking fund, I should say, can say that. So GBTC is proven in that sense. Grayscale holds all the assets. It does have the unattractive management fee and all that, but it's proven. And people are jumping ship from GBTC because it's at discount, but that's actually the optimal time to buy. And if you want to go check out my other videos to help you understand how GBTC's price action follows Bitcoin, I'd go check it out because that way you can, you won't get shaken out of your position. You'll understand it's still, something good to hold on to if it's something that you're in. Okay, so that's one thing. So GBTC is currently at discount. I've got GBTC up on Y charts right here. It's at a 15-16% discount. But that discount has been rounding on a bottom. So I actually expect as Bitcoin, the underlying on Bitcoin regains its all-time high and then moves up, I'm expecting that discount on GBTC to close and potentially go back to premium. It doesn't really matter to me because even if it's at discount for the rest of its existence, it's still going to be higher 6 months or 5 months from now, 4 months from now than it was, than it is right now. So that's helpful to keep in mind. Okay. The thing with Bitwise, it's new. So I've been talking about that. It's new. But also if you just look at it from a technical standpoint, I've made a couple adjustments to this. Back around, I want to say right around here at the beginning of January, I added this horizontal support. And then on the 8th, I added this horizontal resistance. And I haven't moved it. And as you can see, we came below it. When we got here, I added this trend line here on January 27th. Added this ascending trend line. Haven't moved it since. And then we popped above and tested it. Came up, rejected, tested the support. Came back right back up in the same, a day or two later. Got above the resistance. Came up. Once the 22nd of February came, I added this descending trend line from the top. Okay, haven't moved it since. Then we came back down. So those coincide with what this chart is showing you about the discount or about the NAV and the market price. Okay, and we've kind of been consolidating, making higher lows but also lower highs, and we got to this confluence of those trend lines, and we had a very decisive sell down on the 22nd of April onto this, what was support at the time, kind of bounced around up there. And I actually half expected when we didn't break below over here, I half expected us to move sideways and then resume up. And then it's also helpful to look at as well. Ethereum is 25% of the Bitwise fund, right? And it's been on a tear All right. So aside from the fact that Bitcoin is really sideways, Ethereum is on a tear. And so to me, I would have expected, and I hadn't really done the comparison at first, but I would have expected, at worst, that this would be moving sideways. And just given the fact that Bitcoin is starting to regain some momentum and Ethereum has been on such a tear, I half expected this to move up, either, rocketing up like it did over here and back at the beginning, or or at least gradually, like maybe a little bit more gradual like this. But it didn't do that. In fact, it actually decisively sold down, closed, tried to come back up and closed down, and then we had a huge down day yesterday, and today it's been down. And we did test this support, and it held. And so I guess, we're at this point where, from the technical side of things, I guess what I'm saying is, from a technical standpoint, this actually probably is the best place to buy. Now, if I had to choose between GBTC and Bitwise, I don't think I would pick Bitwise, honestly, because to me, it's like the difference between choosing Bitcoin or any of the altcoins, even versus Ethereum. Is it possible that Bitwise will outperform GBTC? Yeah, sure. In fact, I would bet my bottom dollar it's going to outperform GBTC. But the problem is that there's not, for me personally, there's not enough history in Bitwise to really know where it's supposed to be or how its price action will ultimately respond to a cycle, to the volatility of the crypto cycle, to the peak of Bitcoin and then altcoins. I don't understand, I don't know how it's going to respond. Obviously, over the last few days, Bitcoin has been mostly coming up and Ethereum has been really coming up, and this has been coming down. And I don't know if that's just a matter of capitulation before another, upswing in this. But right now, it's not showing me really anything definitive. So this is definitely more of a speculative play. I do root for this. I do want those of you who are invested in Bitwise to be successful in your investment. It's just not something that I'm willing to allocate a ton of my crypto or OTC portfolio to. So it's possible over the coming days, next week perhaps, that I might take a small position. I actually did have a position, full disclosure. I actually bought it right here, and then I sold it. I sold it right here, and so I only held it for a couple of days. But you could see the gain that I made on that because I just got too nervous. I just thought there's no way this thing is worth what people are paying for it. And luckily, I sold because it come down, and it's still below where I sold it at. So if I really felt like taking a chance on this, and it is speculation and nothing is certain, nothing is guaranteed, so it would be speculative. If I was going to take a position, this would be where I would do it, kind of where it's at right now. I would take my position and I would just hold it because in terms of the NAV being so close to the market price, the NAV could go, the market price could go negative compared to the NAV, but that's fine. I think over time, because of the nature of the crypto cycle and Bitcoin's bull market, I think it's just going to go up. I don't know where it's going to end up, but I would bet my bottom dollar that it's going to be, that where it ends up is going to be higher than where it currently is. So again, not financial advice. You have to do your own research and make your own investment choices. But in my opinion, GBTC is more secure. If any of them could be said as that. BITW has much greater upside potential, but it's just very difficult to assess its value, and it's difficult to really project where it's going to go at the end of the cycle. And as I said, because of its recent price action in relation to the movement of Bitcoin and Ethereum. So actually, let's see if I can do this. I think I just messed up my chart. Yeah, I did mess up my chart. So I was going to try to do a comparison here. I won't do that. But as you can see, because of the price action, and I think just like I said, that just the last few days or this week has just made me so nervous in terms of what's going on here. So I'm not sure if I'll pull the trigger, and if I do, it's going to be a small position, something that I'm okay with losing. And in the end, like a small position, it's not going to, make me a rich man, but but you would probably come out with a gain, right? So anyway, that's kind of like a quick analysis. I'm still obviously needing to do research. I think everybody should do their own research on these funds. I do think that you shouldn't even concern yourself over the management fee or anything like that, because the gains that we're talking about that you'll make from any of these funds, I mean, there's no point in even worrying about the management fee as long as you hold a sufficient amount. So I just don't even think it's a problem, and so I wouldn't worry about that at all. So hopefully this was helpful. It's just my 2 cents. Hopefully this is beneficial to you. Again, not investment advice. I would encourage you all to do your own research and come to your own conclusions. I do root for you if you are invested in Bitwise. So thank you for watching. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you guys next time.